All right, so excited to do this for you today. So what we are going to work on is controlling that club face, but not how you might normally think about. We're going to look at the grip. Why the grip is so important and what you want to do to be able to change that and to understand how that affects your ball flight and what happens as you impact that golf ball. All right, let's go ahead and get started. There is only one thing connecting you and this golf club, and that's your hands. Control and speed without changing how I'm trying to hit the golf ball. I'm just simply on how I am trying to hold the golf club. If I point them up my left arm, my lead arm, right, that would be classified as weak. I'm going to point these lines straight up this trail arm, so really strong grip. Okay, getting the grip, understanding how holding the golf club really does change what happens at the club face. There are certain windows. I like to teach in windows. I like areas of where we want to be on really any kind of movement, right? If somebody has a wide stance or some little narrower stance, we're gonna dial that into each person. You know, where my backswing is, and it goes with the grip as well. It does take a little bit of trial and error to understand where each person is going to be holding that grip for optimal contact and ball flight control. But you got to understand that there is only one thing connecting you and this golf club, and that's your hands, right? That's how you hold the golf club. And that is why it is so important to be able to work on this. This is a skill all in its own. And you have to take the time to be able to hold the golf club correctly. So now, what is classified as weak and what is classified as strong? So weak, if I'm holding now, notice I'm holding and I create those double lines with my thumbs. They point pretty much the same direction. Now, if I point them up my left arm, my lead arm, right, that would be classified as weak. Okay, so they're both pointing up this side. And then if I point them up my right arm or my trail arm, now they're both pointing over here. So again, they're moving together. I like the window. I don't really want the lines pointing outside of this shoulder or armpit, and I don't want them pointing outside of this. Are there exceptions? A few, right? There's always a few exceptions, but we're talking in general pretty much all the time, most of the time, right? We need to be within a window area of what we are trying to achieve. You know, if I need to be a little stronger, then I'm going to be pointing up this side. If it's a little weaker, it's going to point up this side. Now, how does that affect my golf shot? If I set up, now my club face will be square, straight away from me. My lines, the grooves of my club are straight away. And now I'm going to point my lines up this side, and the way I can visually see that is either I can look where my thumbs are squishing, or I can look at the top of this hand, right? So I'm going to cover there, they're matching together, and I'm going to make a golf swing feeling this, okay? Ugh. Now that's not how I normally hold the golf club, so that was terrible, but chunked the living daylights out of it. So when I did that, then I left the club face wide open and went over to the right. That caused me, with my lines pointing to this lead shoulder, that when I hit the golf ball, my club face was here. That was where I was at. Once doesn't mean anything, right? But if you do it over time, like 3 makes a pattern, right? Then that's when we need to start changing things. So now if I go all the way over here, I'm going to point these lines straight up this trail arm. So really strong grip, and I'm still going to make the golf swing. There we go. Okay. Now that one there was actually a little tiny draw, but I could tell you from experience that that was actually a bit of a miss hit. Normally, if I'm going to go this strong or this much pointing towards my trail arm, right, I am going to hook that golf ball. There it was. Okay, now that one started more online and I lost it about, 15 yards left. And then if I go somewhere in between, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to point this instead of this shoulder up here into more my right pec. There we go. And I am going to make another golf swing. Find out what happens. There we go. Nice little baby draw. Now that one there had a nice good height on that one. And then it kind of turned just a little tiny bit left. Okay, probably about a 4 or 5 foot draw. I'm happy with that. Now you can watch Scottie Scheffler, right? You'll see when he gets ready to hit a golf ball and how deliberate he is on what his club face is doing in relation to his hand before he even walks up to hit that golf ball. He gets them both on there, goes up, and he's able to hit. So like a lot of times what he does is before he goes plays and when he gets done playing on the golf course is he actually has a golf club with a formed grip. It is set on his golf club on the angle, so we talked about the weak and the strong grip, but it's set on his golf club for the angle that he needs to hold the club in relation to the club face. But those grip puts it on there so that he can set up each time and gets that feel of how that is supposed to fit in his hands.
All you people out there that struggle with your grip, don't worry, there's hope. I'm terrible at gripping the club, so I've probably used one of these since I was maybe 13 or 14, and I use it pretty much every day when I practice, hit balls. Just a little reminder about where the hands go on the club, and don't leave it in your bag. It's a 4-shot penalty. I've done that before as well, but I've been using this for years, and it's a great training tool for me.
Number 1 in the world uses a formed grip to help him be consistent when he holds his golf club. Or I watched another video with Adam Scott, and I wanted to say it was 2 weeks before the Masters.
We're 2 weeks out, as you say. The first week here we are, and we're going to be going over the basics, his fundamentals.
Grip, we keep it fairly neutral, I would say. It's neither strong nor weak.
So when we refer to a neutral grip, we're referring to the left hand where you're standing here, Ben. You can see 2 knuckles on that left hand. For Adam, we don't want to be seeing more than 2.5. And with the right hand, you want the V to be coming, for Adam, coming up down towards this right shoulder. So we're just trying to get him now into that, you make a grip change, it is uncomfortable. Now's the time.
I've pretty much fought that forever.
Yeah.
And I've played tournaments with I feel like I'm not even holding I don't know how I'm going to hold on to the club. Because when you go from a strong grip to a weak grip, it feels like you're not holding it. It's a horrible thing.
Correct.
Right? So,
I know that all too well.
Ben's got a strong grip, so he knows that place. But it's, but irrespective of how it feels, it's just going to get a better result. So
just trust it.
You talked about the first thing they work on is his grip. Okay, so it's always to recenter that so that he's able to play successfully, at their level. That's how important that is. For him, once he gets up and he sets up and he swings, so he gets a little stronger this way, so his hand turns around on top of the golf club a little bit more, right? And so then when he swings, he sees what happens out here. Now he notices he's able to fix that as he plays, but what happens is he notices that because his hand gets a little stronger, so he gets a little bit more on top of the golf club. As he hits the golf ball, his club face now gets a little bit more closed, which also means that the loft, actually, it starts de-lofting. So instead of pointing up at whatever degrees, it starts pointing a little bit more down. And so he starts missing the ball a little bit more left, and it starts to get a little bit lower on his ball flight. Again, these are all cues that you're able to utilize when you're out there playing. Am I hitting it high and right? And is my grip weak? You know, is it too far underneath the golf club? Or am I hitting it, starting to hit it low left? Am I too strong? So I hope that really helps on that part. So I get a lot of people come in with a super strong grip. So they basically like a baseball, okay? A baseball bat, holding a baseball bat. Now, when they do that, now of course the lines that we talked about here are pointing way over here. So they're way underneath, or way on top with this, the lead hand, and way underneath with the trail hand. Okay, and yeah, they can hit some good golf shots. They still like to flare it out to the right, but they also will hook the living daylights out of that thing way left. Okay, now this is why that happens, is because as they swing through, what are they going to do? Their hands will start releasing, and what happens to that golf club? That golf, you know, the club face, it starts closing. So they have to try really hard to hold that off as long as possible, just to keep that club face somewhat square. And now if they hold it off too hard, it goes to the right. And then if they let the club release a little bit more relaxed, it closes it and flips it way left. Right? So that's another thing that we have to avoid, you know, being too weak. So then, in other words, when I hit, my face will be wide open, or too strong, where I have to really force myself to not release and have more tension, or else when I relax, I'm going to close the living daylights out of that golf club. Now, I really hope that helps. So go ahead, experiment with that, play around with that. You know, just make sure that we are holding the golf club securely into our lead hand, and we are really concentrating on holding your thumb and then curling your fingers around on your right hand, and then from there moving your grip weaker and stronger to be able to make those straighter golf shots without you trying to manipulate the club head. All right, I really hope that helps. All right, catch you later.